Hi everyone, just a quick video just to show you the workings of these spray nozzles for a BMW. This is an E90 Coupe, 320 Coupe, but I think they're similar on many other vehicles. You may have a problem that we had where this cover wasn't recessing. It was literally hanging out and would never go back. And in time people pulled it and all sorts of things happened, got caught when it was being washed, until eventually it would never go back. Now obviously I thought best thing to do is just strip this thing down and replace that whole assembly, the whole pump and everything together. But in actual fact it's a lot easier than that and may not have to buy any parts at all if you watch this video. So here we go, we're going to have a little look at repairing this. Some of the video you're going to see is shot in an upright position. I am very sorry about that, but that was my mistake in holding the camera. So let's have a quick look under the wing and see what the pump assembly looks like. Okay, right, we've got the wheel off, and you'll probably find that it's sometimes quite difficult to get these wheels off because there's a lot of corrosion builds up around here, little interaction between the two metals. Best thing, just a tip, is give it a good clean off before you start putting the wheel back on. A little bit of grease, a little bit of copper ease is normally the best thing. There's a high temperature paste, so it'll tend to stay good. Just clean that down, and then when you go to put the wheel on, it'll slip on easy, and in 6 months time when you want to take it off, it'll come off again without having to use a hammer. Right, just inside the wheel arch, just to let you have a look, this is pretty much the situation with the cover in place. There are a number of bolts that you just need to take care of. There's one here, push studs here, bolt, push stud, bolt, and there's another one up here. Once all these are removed, this whole cover falls out, and then you have access to the actual piston itself. Okay, the inner wheel arch is out, and just a couple of things to show you while I'm here. I've done a simple trick really, and that is just to stop this pipe from leaking. Once you remove it from the actual pump assembly itself, there's a little clip comes out and the pipe just pulls off. I've just got 2 blocks of wood, put some screws through them and pinch the pipe. It's just a nice way to, and a nice easy way to control the pipe without having to use grips, which could damage the pipe, by the way. So that just stops it. If you don't do that, it will siphon your tank until it's empty. Now I've got an airline here, and what I'm going to do is going to put it onto the back of this unit as if it were water going into it. Okay, so you can see the airline, and this is what happens. Now as you can see, it is not sitting down properly, and that is because there's dirt all underneath the or actually in the piston itself. So we're going to take it all apart and clean it. Now the easy way to get hold of this is do not pull this out by this cover, because you will break those springs. So have a look at it again. When it's out, you can see it's just grab hold of the mechanism and then lock it off so that it stays out temporarily. Then take this cover off, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, I've managed to pull the piston out now so you can see it, and I've locked it off with these mole grips, hence putting the tape around it so the mole grips don't. Now you don't need to make this these mole grips too tight. This is only a plastic assembly, so just be gentle with it. But to take this front cover off, and you can see that now, see the springs, I think. People pull this, it'll take a certain amount of movement, but then they will stretch. There are 2 little clips either side on this, just one here and one here. If you get those undone, difficult to do while holding the camera. Okay, so one off. Right, sorry about that everybody, but there it is. That's the assembly off. Now you can see here the springs. Sorry to have to refocus on this, but there. Now you can see the springs. This allows the flat a certain amount of movement so that when it all goes back together again, it will settle. But it's this piston which is the problem. It's not coming all the way back. So we'll take this out. Right, well here's something we can show you. Not easy, I'm afraid, with the camera, but I'm trying to get it into position. Maybe there. If you get yourself a little screwdriver there is a clip, which is a bit like a radio setup where you push in a screwdriver and it releases the clips. On one side only, you can get a screwdriver into this little tiny hole, push it forward, and it then lifts the clip. That just means you have one clip to do, which is a bit blind from the inside of the wheel arch, and that allows you to remove the whole assembly. That's the best picture I can show you that, but I think once you get to your own vehicle, you'll be able to make sense. Okay? Right, so now we've got into that front screwdriver is undoing that clip, which difficult to see. Just above the cable there, around here. Can you see that? But there's one also up here. So my screwdriver, if you slide a screwdriver up here, you'll be able to literally feel that other one and just push it a little bit. It really is simple. It takes us a few seconds. Once you've undone the clips, this whole assembly just comes out, and then you have it in your hands. Okay? Right, with the assembly off, I'm just trying to get you a picture so you can see this clearly. That piston needs to come off, or needs to be driven back, so the whole casing will come apart. Okay, now we've got the unit off. I'm outside of the garage for a second to get some more light on the subject, but now it looks like this whole assembly is going to unclip or do something fancy. No such thing. It is press fitted in or press fit on, whatever terms you like, and what we're trying to do is drive this piston here, which is the piston that pops out with the assembly on the end. We're going to push that out so that these two parts separate. Okay, now on our first attempt we didn't quite realize how this worked, so a bit of trial and error, and the simple way is get plenty of rags around this unit, hold it tight. Rags mainly because these clips are really sharp and they can cut you to pieces, and then you just want to take a soft hammer and you want to hammer that top. You want to shock it really hard. That'll then release the cap from the actual base unit. It really looks a bit brutal, but quite honestly it comes off really quite easily, but it just needs to be shocked. Before you do that, I would suggest you give it a quick squirt of WD-40 up and under here. It just helps the whole assembly come apart a bit easier. So squirt a little bit around all these holes, and we'll come back and show you what the assembly looks like in a few minutes. Right, that took just 3 sharp blows on the end, and you can see how the mechanism comes apart. Here it comes, and just look at that dirt in there. This is such a simple, well, I'm choosing my words carefully, but I think they could have done a better job with this thing. Out comes the spring, and all you have left is a piston. And if you look at that piston, and I think even in this, you can see the amount of crud and dirt that's around that piston itself. So all that needs to be cleaned out. The tube needs to be cleaned out, of course, to get that nicely. No, you can't see inside that, but I think you understand what it is. Get all that nicely cleaned through. I use a little bit of silicone grease when I reassemble this, so that it allows it to slide up and down quite nicely. But that is what is really stopping your piston from returning. Now you can buy these units, they're not overly expensive, but you got to take it off any case to replace it, so you might as well just see if you can fix it. It really is quicker than probably going down the dealership and trying to get a new one. Okay, speak to you again in a minute. Okay, so here we are. This is the assembly, nice and cleaned. Great improvement. You'll notice on this seal here, this rubber seal here, it appears red in colour. I hope that comes through on the camera, but in actual fact this seems to be some kind of coating sprayed onto the outside or bonded onto the outside of the actual rubber seal itself. Now in the other side of the vehicle, when I took this unit apart, some of this had already flaked off, so in the end I flaked the whole thing off and ended up with just a rubber seal, a traditional black rubber seal as you would expect. I reassembled it with some silicone grease and it seems to be working absolutely perfect. So that's probably one of the only downsides. You may have to replace this pump if this seal is badly worn or something's happened to it or the surface is coming off it. But it's not a... I expected when I took this whole thing apart and took this job on, there was going to be a lot of electronics involved and some fancy stuff to deal with, but in actual fact it's a bicycle pump. That's all it is, a bicycle pump with a spring. It is just so simple. Water comes in through the back, pressurizes the system, that pushes the piston forward. When the thing is fully out, then it starts squirting water at the headlamp unit. As soon as the pressure from the pump is released, the piston, with the aid of this spring, pushes this all assembly all back together again, and in it goes. So simple. Right, well, I've managed to rig up the camera so we can hopefully see what we're doing, putting this back in together again. Right, I've lined this up. I don't know if the camera's seeing that, but you can see I've got the pipe lined up, the inner pipe lined up. Literally put that there on the block, put your hammer on top, your socket on top, and one hit, and it's fixed. Okay, simple. Right, we're all back in position. All that remains is to put in the actual piston itself. Again, very simple, little push and click. Next job is just to put the cover back on. Again, put it over and clip, and that's it. Okay, that's all reassembled. I can now remove the mole grips, let the unit go back, and we'll pressure test and make sure it's working okay. Right everyone, just wanted to show you the differences between a clean unit and a very dirty unit, and this is the same test we did earlier, and using the airline before so that we can just push the unit out before we finally put on the water pipe itself and reseal the bodywork. As you can see, the cover is now sitting back nice and sharp, nice and quick. That would normally go a bit slower when it's got water pressure in it, so it would slide back kind of gently, look a bit groovy, but under an airline it just fires it in and out. So I think you get the idea. Problem has been totally resolved, and so far hasn't cost me anything. Also, it's worth noting, just to finish off this video, that these clips themselves, these little covers, very difficult for you to probably see that in this light, but these covers, when you buy them from BMW, they are grey primer only. Now it's a bit of a nuisance because although these covers and the clip assembly that goes on the end of the pump housing is quite cheap, there is a problem in as much that they are supplied in grey primer, so you've then got to get them painted. Now that means another cost, more time, and all sorts of implications. So the best way I found to overcome that was to, when I removed this unit, I found I could prise this cover off. Now it's stuck to the back of the plate mechanism, the spring mechanism, which you'll soon see once you get yours out. But if you stick a small blade in between this top cover and the actual backing cover to this, you'll find that this will actually pop off. Now there's a bit of mastic in there or something holding it down, but it gives up quite easily, so just prise it off. Prise the same off of the new unit that you've got, the grey primered unit, and then rebond this one back on top. It's not a big deal, something you could do very, very quickly and easily, but it saves an awful lot of time in paint.